Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
Courtney is drinking her THC drink over there. So if
I
things
didn't
get a
think
little
about it.
wild, if the story starts to make no sense, you know what happened.
If it just shuts off midway through, you know what happened. She just disappeared. Yeah, but
All of a sudden, it starts again, and our voices sound completely different. It's a whole new day. We just had
yeah,
to come back and
we had to come back. No, but it's a legal Tennessee one, so
yes, yes.
I bought it at a store here, so I hope it's legal. Um,
Nothing illegal going on over here that we would
nope,
tell you about anyway.
nope.
So
That's between me and my private chats. So it is not for the world to hear because you never know who's going to listen, you know?
Ooh, can you imagine if our text messages ever got leaked anywhere?
I think I just have to bye
Well,
bye. Gotta go. Gotta
there's no coming
go.
back from that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that'd be pretty bad,
Yeah.
honestly.
Okay, who of all the people in your life, who would be the one person that like, okay, if you could only pick, okay, so your entire text message history is released, but you could pick
Okay.
one person that would not. Who would you pick? Like, who's the person that you most would not want the world to see
It'd
what you
have
say
to be
to?
you.
I
It'd
think
have
mine's
to be
probably you
you.
too.
It's because of Also, I say that because me and my sister also text some unhinged stuff, but we do it all on Snapchat that disappears.
That's probably
So
smart. Yep.
anything that's like, this should not, we don't want anyone to see this. She also, like, my niece, like, well, more so my nephew, likes to grab her phone and like
Mm,
text, and he can read the text. So you kind of have to
yeah.
be careful what you're saying because he can read it.
Yeah, that does make it a lot that changes things once they can
Yeah.
read. Millie can only read well, she can read her name and she can read an exit sign, so that's pretty cool. But like this
That's an
weekend
important
I
thing to know.
right? She learned that at Dollywood this weekend. Because she was like, "Oh, like what does that sign say?" And I was like, "Oh, let's sound it out." And so like she sounded it out, and I was like, "This is what it means." And then we were in the parking lot, and like they have the exit signs, but like they look differently. But like she recognized like the sight word. She was like, "Oh, like that says exit," and I was like, "That's right." And then like today, and like I told her like why places have exit signs or whatever. And then this morning we were leaving to go to school, and she's like, "Why don't we have an exit sign here?" I was like, "Well, they'll be at school, so look for them there."
Okay, at the house. I
Like,
thought you
yes.
meant at school. I was
Oh
like,
no,
wait,
they
why does my school not have exit
yes,
signs?
her preschool does thankfully have exit signs. No, she was talking about our home. Why does our home not
You'll
have
have to
exit
let her like
signs?
draw an exit sign and put it above
Yes,
your door so
that'd be
then she'll
cute.
know.
We'll do that for our fire safety preparedness
Yeah.
day. Um, but this weekend she drew a picture and asked me to send it to somebody, and I sent it to her and I was like, "Oh, like Millie wanted me to send this, whatever." And like Millie like looked at it, she's like, "That's my name." Like she was like doing something else and she like saw
hmm
it and was like, "That says me." I was like, "Yep." So we're
Which
getting
is
there, but
kind
not
of,
quite yet.
it is kind of crazy to think when it's like they are that young where they're like talking and like recognition of stuff, but it's like, yeah, she's just walking them in like, I don't know what any of this stuff says.
Right?
It's just a bunch
Like
of gibberish.
there's just words everywhere that mean nothing.
It's so weird.
Yep. But yeah,
The
she's
human
starting
journey
to
is weird.
her little sight words. She's starting to pick things up and
Nice.
sound out words. And it's crazy to think like, oh, in like 2 years, like you're gonna be reading like whole books.
Yeah,
Like,
like actual books.
yeah, it is wild. It's wild out here. Um, yeah, what else you got? Anything?
Um, Not really. I've been consuming some true crime adjacent things for fun lately, which have been
Mm,
fun.
interesting.
I watched, oh shoot, what's it called? Unknown Number that just came on Netflix.
Haven't heard of it.
Okay, it was so good. The problem was it got spoiled for me, which
Um,
sucks because it would have been a, you know?
so I guess it's
Um,
not one you're familiar with then. What
no.
case is it?
It's not like a murder, it's like a catfishing thing. So it's this
Oh,
girl
okay.
and she's like 13, I think, in Michigan, and her boyfriend, who's also like 13, start getting these text messages that are like, "You're ugly, Owen hates you," like basically harassing her, being like, "Go kill yourself," all this stuff for like a
Mm-hmm.
year and a half.
Mm.
And then like they end up breaking up, and then Owen goes and like gets a girlfriend that goes to like a different school because this is a school that's like pre-K till like 12th grade. It's all
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
same building. It's so small,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Um, and then he gets like another girlfriend, and like that person starts texting them too. And it's like this ever-going thing. And they're like, who's doing it? So they're trying to like plant seeds, like who would be doing it? And they're like investigating it and stuff.
Mm.
Very interesting, very wild turn of
Okay.
events. Um, Also started watching, it's called Hello Beautiful on Hulu. And
Mm.
it is also like a scammer kind of thing where this guy is like
Okay.
scamming all these women to like send him money, but then like
Mm-hmm.
the guy whose pictures he's using like becomes aware of it and he's also trying to like because he's like his
Mm-hmm.
whole business is like online. And so he's like,
Mm.
now you Google me and there's like I'm
Yeah.
getting taken down because they think I'm like whatever. So
Ugh. Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah. I mean, like one woman sent him like over $1 million.
Wow. That's crazy.
Like
Oh my gosh.
sold her family home because she was like, it was just sitting there and he needed money. Sold the home and then
What?
sent it to him. It's crazy, guys. Don't send people money.
Like, there
Just
are
don't
very few
do it.
people in my life that I would do such a thing for,
And that's
that
what
I
some of the
actually
people
know.
were saying is they were like, you
Like,
don't even send that much money to family. Like, what are you doing? Like, but it's
wow.
crazy. It's crazy. So I guess more like scammy stuff and not necessarily
Yeah.
like murdery stuff. But
Okay.
I feel like there
That's
was
fun though.
another
Not
one.
fun, but like interesting and not as heavy as some of the other stuff that we
Yeah.
consume.
Yeah. It's like still messed up, but it's like, and there's like obviously victims, but it's a
Hmm.
little bit different.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of true crime documentaries, which we probably should have put this at the beginning of last week's episode because we'll be done with CrimeCon by the time this comes out. But
hmm.
as of the recording of this episode, we will be at CrimeCon in like 48 hours. And for some reason, it has always ended up that we like watch some kind of true crime show at night while we're there because apparently we just do not
We
get
can't get
enough during the
enough.
day. So we already decided that we're going to watch the Amanda Knox documentary, the new one that just came out. So
Hmm.
I'm really excited about that. So
I am too, because I feel like I know about that case, but I don't
I
know
don't know,
about that
like,
case.
yeah, like I've never watched, like, I feel like it's so, like, out there that's like, kind of the details here and there, but I've never, like, watched or read anything, like, specifically
Yeah.
about it, you know?
Hmm.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Excited for CrimeCon in general,
Yes, me too.
obviously.
I'm
So.
excited to travel somewhere and not in a car because I've spent a lot of time in a car recently. So,
I'm
but
excited for a direct flight too. So, because
that's
the last few
true.
times I've traveled by plane, I have to deal with the whole layover situation. So I'm excited to not have to
Yeah,
deal with that.
it's no fun. I actually started packing tonight because I was like,
Oh,
let me,
wow.
I know, look at me being on top of my shit.
I
But we
know.
fly cheap and we don't get a carry-on. And so it's all gonna go in a
Yeah.
backpack. So I have to make sure it all fits. And I
Gotta be
gotta
very
figure out.
strategic.
And I'm just sorry for the tangent, but I'm like, how am I supposed to put my multi-step skincare routine in a gallon bag? Just not gonna happen. I'm gonna have to just if y'all see me at CrimeCon, just sorry. I'm not doing my whole skincare routine. I found a travel size of something I don't even use anymore, so we'll just be
But it'll
going for
work.
it.
For a few days, it'll be fine. It'll
We'll
get you
be fine.
through.
My face will get
But
cleaned.
I did read that they are probably doing away with those regulations soon, like they did away with taking off your shoes. So I don't know what
Oh,
the regulation will be. Like I don't know if they're just increasing the quantity, like, but it's still going to be limited, or if they're like getting away with like it all has to be in one
yeah.
bag. Like I don't know what different criteria they're going to have
So
now,
that's
but
my
apparently they're
hard
going to
thing
change
is
it.
it's like a what is it, a quart? It's a quart size
Uh-huh.
bag. I can't even remember
Yeah.
what I know what
Yeah.
it is. I have it, but I always forget the sizing. But I'm like, not that much fits in there once you start
Yeah.
putting stuff in there. Once you have to put, especially a girl who apparently can't use like a powder deodorant, has to use a liquid deodorant, but deodorant has to go in there, and that takes up a lot of space. Then your skincare, how's your skincare fit in there? It doesn't. You got to sacrifice, and
Mhm. Well,
it's
I
difficult.
don't have a lot in mind. So if you need to use space in my quart bag, feel free. We can
Okay.
rearrange.
Yeah.
We'll take everything out and we'll see what needs to
We'll
go
see.
where,
We'll
and then
see.
we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think I found out I have a bunch of like a few other little like sample packet stuff that
Mm-hmm.
I can like ditch on the way back. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can do this. But
Yeah.
so
So yeah, I guess we are ready to jump in. Courtney so lovingly did this espresso because I overcommitted. who am I? It's a shocker. To do a book that I am about halfway through now, so we're getting there, but
Yeah.
um, was not prepared for tonight.
Yeah,
So
I logged
Courtney
in
took
at
on an
one point
episode.
and there was like 6 sentences, and I was like, I'm gonna
Well, I
find
will.
something. I didn't know it was gonna be an espresso until I watched the episode, and I was like, this
Yeah.
would be a good one. But
And I will say too, when you logged on, like I was taking notes on my phone a lot, so I would and like then I would copy and
yeah.
paste over to the Google Doc, so I was a little farther along than it appeared. But yeah, I needed an assist this month, so thank you.
Yeah, I got you. But yeah, once I watched this one, I actually watched 2 episodes on it of 2 different series. I was
Mhm.
like, this feels like a one that has twists and turns
Yeah.
where it's kind of like, is it this person? Is it this? Like you're kind of like a who done
Hmm.
it, why kind of thing. And there really wasn't that much information, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit shorter.
Well, I will sit back and listen to the story.
So our sources for this episode are Where Murder Lies, season 1, episode 3, Obstacle of Affection, A Sins of the South episode, season 1, episode 12, Unholy Obsession, which got a little beef to pick with that series because the narrator has the fakest country accent I've ever heard, and it really, even Kevin was like, how are you watching this right now?
I don't know why people do that. Like it's so bizarre to me.
Yeah, they tried to go too heavy on like the South portion of it and all that kind of stuff, and it felt a little cheesy when we're talking about something serious and like family
Yeah.
members, law enforcement are being interviewed, but
It's
still
like they're
got
like
some
trying to
information.
like set a vibe and it's like you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
You could just respectfully tell the story.
Yeah, she'd be like, and this is located in North Carolina and blah blah blah. And I was like,
Oh, yikes.
yeah, which just makes me think I'm like, I'm already getting distracted. Sorry, guys. I'll get on topic at one point. But I'm like a year behind on Morbid, and I just listened to an episode and they were talking about how like anyone can do a Southern accent. And I was like, no,
Nope.
because their
Nope,
Southern
not
accents were
true.
so bad. And I looked at the comments and everyone was like, as a Southerner, we can tell.
You're like, yep, nope, that's not what we sound like.
Yeah. Anyway, two WRAL.com articles, which is like a local Raleigh paper, and Law Justia website. So on January 30th, 2008, at 7:12 a.m., a witness saw something on the side of the road of I-540 westbound past exit 20, and he stopped because he was like, "What's this?" And he's like, "Oh, that's a body." So he obviously called law enforcement, and when law enforcement first arrived, her body was just over an embankment, and she'd been stabbed multiple times, and most of her blood had been drained from her body. They did believe it was a targeted murder just due to the number of stab wounds and brutality. Like, this is the side of the road, and you're stabbing them 40 times. Like, this is a bit excessive. Um, and a vehicle was located less than a mile down the highway, and the interior was covered in blood. So they do believe the woman was killed in her car. Police did run the tags on the car, and it came back to Latrese Curtis. And many areas of Latrese's car was swabbed for DNA, and that's kind of where they hoped, like, for most of their evidence, because they don't really have a lot to go on. So they're like, hopefully, we'll get something from all of this testing. So Latrice Curtis was very special. Her dad, Sherman Jones, took her everywhere and said she was a straight up daddy's girl. He took her fishing and taught her to play basketball, and she followed him around like a shadow. And as she got into high school, she started to love doing more girly things, like getting her nails done and her hairs done. And he was like, I'd be like, come play basketball. And she'd be like, I don't want to break a nail. Once you turn that age and you're like, you know, caring about that kind of stuff. Um, Latrice was also described as humble, kind, and would love to help people with their problems. She was a go-getter. And she went to North Carolina Central University and studied accounting. And North Carolina Central University is also a HBCU, or historically black college or university, in case you don't know what that means. And Sherman said she was very proud to go to an HBCU. And he was like, even if she'd gotten into like Duke and all UNC, like she still would have chosen North Carolina Central because she was so proud to go there. So her freshman year, she met Darren Curtis. Darren was sweet and shy and kind of reserved. He was in the National Guard, and they seemed like a great match. He was very respectful. And her junior year, she got married. Like they just eloped, kind of out of nowhere. She wasn't pregnant. They just eloped.
Just because.
Just because I feel like whenever you say that, when they're like just eloped out of nowhere, people are like, "Oh, she's pregnant." But I mean,
Hmm.
As far as I know, she wasn't. Um, and Sherman was pretty upset about it because it was so sudden, and he was like, Darren didn't come talk to me, kind of get my permission, which is a very like Southern thing to do still. And he was like, I just didn't understand like why it happened so suddenly. So Darren did report Latrice missing the morning of January 30th. And he said he talked to her last night and she was on her way home from classes and it was around like 10 p.m. He said she had the radio on and she said she was going to stop and get something to eat, but she never came home. So this is kind of where the two documentary episodes I watched kind of differed a little bit. So the Sins of the South episode, it says that Darren like showed up at the crime scene and was mentioning how his wife was missing and that they had made positive identification from this because he had a picture of her kind of thing, but they didn't tell him that it was her like on the side of the road. It was just weird because in the other episode it was like we found the car, ran the tags, and that's how we
Hmm.
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah.
There was a few things that was like these are the same people. Why are
Hmm.
there different stories? That's
Yeah.
just something that was a little odd. So Darren said he called multiple times and had noticed the heavy police presence on I-540 and then saw Latrice's car at the exit. And he said this is when he turned around and went home to report her missing. So he's kind of saying he started driving to work, saw the police presence, saw the exit, turned around, and this is like 2008. Like we have cell phones at this point. They're not what they are today, but you could still call
Yeah. I feel like
remotely.
most people as an adult had a cell phone at that point, right?
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, she had one. She called him the night before and was like, hey,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So just kind of weird account, basically. So he's saying he went back home to report her missing and that he'd also tried to locate her before he left the house for work through cell phone accounts and did mention and notice like many calls from the same number from the 29th to the 30th. So I don't know. It's so weird that you're like so concerned you're looking up her cell phone records, but then you're just going to go to work. I don't know. It's very weird. Um,
Yeah. That is
I
weird.
guess they're juniors in college, no frontal lobe sometimes.
That's true.
So, yeah. So he calls the number that he noticed the calls from, and a male answers, but never identifies himself. The male does say he goes to school with Latrice and asks like, "Is she okay?" But nothing else really comes from that phone call. So Sherman had been up that morning and couldn't get in touch with Latrice. So he tried to call Darren, but also couldn't get a hold of him. So he called the North Carolina Central University and talked to the security guard. And the security guard was like, I think you should get in touch with law enforcement. And he's like, okay. So they went down to the station around 11 a.m. and they put Sherman and his wife in a room and told them that the body found on I-540 was confirmed to be Latrice. And Sherman did mention he was like, I saw them talking about it on the news, but like never thought that was Latrice. So Darren was interviewed by police and agreed to go to the station. He said again, she called around 10 p.m. saying she was on her way home and was going to stop and get food. She didn't say where she was going to stop, just that she was going to stop, and that he fell asleep and woke up sometime between 6 and 7 a.m. That's when he called, reported her missing to the Durham police, and Darren is the one who identified her body once they got back to the police station. So Sherman was pretty upset at Darren because he was like thinking Darren knew what happened to her. He's like, how can you like wake up without her in bed and then just go to work? And he's also kind of like, how does your wife call and say she's coming home and you fall asleep? Like, you don't wait up? Like, because I looked it up too and like, her school was in Durham, but she lived in Raleigh. And it was like a 30-40 minute drive. So it's not like she was driving multiple hours. So he's like, why wouldn't you
Mm-hmm.
just stay up and make sure she gets home
Yeah.
safe? Like, just kind of
Exactly.
odd things.
Yeah.
However, law enforcement didn't really think of him as a suspect, so he cooperated. He had reported her missing that morning. He had agreed to DNA and fingerprints and to like take pictures, and he likely knew he was a suspect and complied, but he didn't like bend over backwards for them, which I guess they were kind of like, he's not like trying to over explain himself, but he's like
Mm-hmm.
cooperating basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
The husband is usually the first suspect, but neighbors said they seemed like a normal, happy married couple, and they never heard excessive fighting. And they also pulled like apartment footage, but didn't see anything like suspicious on that as well. So, a few hours after the body is discovered, law enforcement get a really big lead. So, Trooper Isaac Cooper called in to say that he saw that car last night and had stopped on the highway around 1:15 a.m. So he saw two cars on the highway, and the first was a minivan with its hazards on and like windshield wipers going, and the second car was a white sedan. He stopped because he was like, this is kind of odd, like maybe seeing if they needed help. But at that moment, he got a call for like something else going on, so he had to leave and was like, I couldn't stay. But he was like, I did write down the license plate numbers because I thought it was weird, which I'm like, look at a cop doing his job. Look at that.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at you, Trooper Cooper. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So the white sedan was Latrice's. That was confirmed. And the minivan was registered to Robert Reeves, who's a bishop that lives in Durham. So police are like, who's Robert? How does he know Latrice? Like, what is kind of going on here? So Robert Reeves was a pastor and well known in the community and was highly regarded. So at 3 p.m., police questioned Bishop Robert Reeves, and he spoke very little but seemed confident. There was really no emotion. He was just kind of, he wasn't angry. He wasn't just kind of flat. He said his nickname was the Bishop, and he also agreed to photographs, fingerprints, and DNA. And he said the night before that he had been to church, that evening and then went home. So, police found that the link between Latrice and Robert was a young man named Stephen Randolph. So, Stephen was Robert's roommate, and he was a single young man who also went to North Carolina Central. And Robert had met Stephen at a car wash and offered him reduced rent to live there, kind of being like, oh, like he needs help. He's a student. I'm going to help him out. Like, you can come live at my house. Don't have to pay a lot of money. And Robert said Stephen did use his minivan often because Stephen's car wasn't working. So it's like, yeah, he would borrow my car a lot. Robert also said Stephen was having an affair with Latrice. So now we're getting a little bit more information here. It's kind of getting
Mm-hmm.
messy. And no one in
Mm-hmm.
Latrice's life knew about the affair. Her dad, her best friend was interviewed. Like, she had not told anyone about this affair with Stephen.
Okay.
And so they're kind of like, okay, this is surprising, but like maybe important because like now maybe we're getting some motive for somebody in her life. Um, especially with Steven having this affair. And now they're probably also like, well, Darren, if he found out, that's also something to consider. They also found out the number that had called Latrice over and over again that Darren had called was Steven. So that was Steven who had answered the phone. So we'd like to note here again an inconsistency between documentaries. So Where Murder Lies says Robert Reeves came in on his own, spoke to police, and then was like, "Hey, you probably want to talk to Steven. I'll bring him in." But Sins of the South says they found out about Steven just from the phone numbers, contacted campus police, and then Steven asked to bring in his friend slash mentor, Robert Reeves. So kind of different because one is saying like the day of Robert Reeves is interviewed, and another one is saying he's not interviewed until Steven's also interviewed.
Hmm. Weird.
I, very weird. Either way,
Yeah.
they're both interviewed. I don't know why there's an inconsistency because like again, it's
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of the same people, but either way. So Stephen was interviewed by police on February 1st. Stephen also complied with giving DNA and fingerprints. So Stephen was a basketball player at North Carolina Central, and that's a big deal at the school. I think at any college, university, usually anyone on a sports team is highly regarded at the school. Um, Stephen told police about his relationship with Latrice. It was a sexual relationship, and Stephen did know she was married. He said he didn't know any of the details of their marriage. They didn't really talk about that, but he did know she was married. And he said on January 30th, Latrice had come over. They had sex and did use a condom, but that the condom got stuck. So after they were done, it was kind of stuck. And they were both concerned about it, like tried to get it out, but they couldn't. So she ended up leaving. Stephen also says that this time he left the apartment and stayed with some friends. He also had another girlfriend at the same time who was there, and her name was Velma. So does have multiple girlfriends, a little messy, a little complicated, a lot of moving parts now. But he's kind of
Hmm.
saying he was with Latrese, we had sex, she went home, which we know also because she called Darren saying she was going home. Um, and so police try and corroborate Stephen's story and his alibi. And he also said some kind of surprising things that was kind of odd. So Stephen said his tires had been slashed in December 2007, which was about a month prior to Latrice's murder. And Stephen had also been receiving strange phone calls from a blocked number. The caller had been threatening to break Stephen's legs and end his basketball career, and that the caller hoped Stephen had a gun. And Velma also started receiving these text messages, and Velma's tires were also slashed. So now they're like, is who's targeting Stephen and Velma? Could they also have something to do with Latrice's murder? Like it's kind of
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
lot going on.
Does this all like go together? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like every time they interview someone, it's like another piece of like what's happening here.
Hmm.
And on February 2nd, in a shocking turn to the public, Bishop Robert Reeves was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. So, Robert's DNA was a
Okay.
match to DNA at the crime scene. Yeah, kind of. We all thought, is
Well.
it Stephen or Darren? We were thinking Robert
Hmm.
Reeves, and then here he comes in and it's like, hi.
Yeah.
So, um, and like that, like Sherman's like, I was shocked. Like, I didn't think it was all going to be the bishop, like at all. So
Yeah.
they're like, what is his motive? Why would he have done this? So Robert Reeves went to trial on September 29th, 2009, and prosecution started with telling how this is kind of a unique case. So they started with testimony from Darren and how he knew Latrice, so the jury could kind of feel like they knew like her as like Darren and her family and friends knew her because like you kind of know once you're going to bring in the affair part, that's people are going to form opinions. So they're like,
Yeah.
we want to present her like as she was, of like who she was to her core. That's how we want to start
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
So Stephen Randolph also took the stand and he talked about Robert and how he moved in with him. And Stephen said he then started to see another side of him and that Robert would make him feel just very uncomfortable. So in December 2007, Robert had asked Stephen if he wanted to be part of an escort service. So Stephen's like, he's thinking about it for a second because he's like, I could make money. Like that is a way to make money. So Robert said he needed to see what he was working with, and Stephen dropped his pants, and apparently Robert started to like fondle Stephen to an extent, and Stephen was like, okay, I'm kind of uncomfortable now. I don't think you're actually wanting me for an escort service. I think you're kind of trying to take advantage of me. And then Robert started to try and entice him by offering him a deal on rent or make his life easier so he could touch Stephen again. So he's like, you can stay here for free if we can do this. And he tried a lot of different angles, and he would say things to him like, quote, if you close your eyes, you won't know if it's a man or woman. Getting your dick sucked is getting your dick sucked, unquote.
Mm. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Not great. And Steven kept making it very clear, like, I do not want this. I mean, especially too, like Robert Reeves was like double his age. He was like in his 40s, 50s. Like he's like, I don't, this is not why I'm here. Um, Police also found a second phone line that Robert had in the church's name. Robert used this additional phone line to kind of do things he didn't want other people to know about, which included the harassing phone calls and actually the location where the tires were slashed matched location markers from that phone too. So it's like, oh, it's pretty clear Robert Reeves was the one doing that and probably slashing his tires and doing all this stuff to try to get Steven, hey, I can help you with your car if you let me do this kind of thing. And for motive of Latrice, it seemed he murdered her due to Latrice standing in his way of the relationship he wanted with Steven. So he was kind of harassing Velma, and he viewed Latrice as kind of a threat and kind of wanted that threat gone. So Latrice's autopsy was talked about during the trial, and the medical examiner did find the condom, which corroborates Steven's story. So he was not lying when he said, this is what happened. And again, she had been stabbed over 40 times. There was no alcohol in her system. Um, and testimonies were also heard about Robert Reeves when he came in for his interview. So Robert did have injuries on his body that seemed pretty fresh, including scrapes and bruises on his arms and knees. And he said he'd just gotten them moving some furniture. So, Robert Reeves' alibi, if you remember, was also that he went to church that night. But his sister, Willie Mae, went to church that night also and said she went alone, and no one in the congregation, like who was there, saw him that night either. So he's like, "Yeah, I went to church. Everyone saw me." And it's like nobody saw him there. So they think that that night after Stephen and Latrice had sex, Latrice left to go home. And they think that maybe she pulled over to kind of sort out the condom issue because it's like you are having an affair, you can't really go home with a condom stuck
Yeah.
up in there with no explanation. That was
Yeah.
can't really talk your way out of that one. And they think Robert Reeves followed her and took advantage of her being stopped. And while they had the DNA that matched, in the car, the rest was very circumstantial. Like that's kind of the only real physical piece of evidence they have here. The rest is kind of like he said, she said, this is kind of what we think. And they were really worried the jury just like wouldn't see it or wouldn't get there. And Robert's defense tried to poke at the different areas. They say, well, Latrice was at his house with Steven, so she could have picked up his DNA at the house just by touching the doorknobs, anything in that house, and that could be why it was there. And they also said Robert's car at the scene could have been Steven. So they were trying to do that too, where it's like, oh, Steven used his car. How do we know it wasn't Steven? And the defense really tried to point fingers at Steven. Like that was kind of their whole defense, is that reasonable doubt of a second suspect. However, Robert's lack of an alibi hurts him tremendously, and there was also testimony about a knife and a screwdriver that was found in Robert's vehicle. So they're kind of like, I think a lot of times they talk about like juries want DNA, and that's kind of their like they want it. So I think having that DNA like really benefited them. And then there's no alibi. They're kind of finding all this stuff. And on October 2009, Robert Reeves was found guilty of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He has tried a few appeals, but none with much success, and I can't really find anything else about him or his prison time at the moment.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's just the really tragic murder of Latrese Curtis, who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, really.
Yeah, that really is so sad. And like, of all the directions I thought that was gonna go, that definitely was not one of them.
You're
Like,
not gonna think it's
especially,
the bishop. Like,
right? But like, and the bishop because he's trying to like have a relationship with this person, and
yeah.
she is also having a relationship with this person, and so he's like, "Oh, you're in my way." Like, that's wow. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
not have expected that to
Yeah.
be the
And it
scenario
was
here.
like brought up a lot in like the first documentary or the first episode, the Where Murder Lies, because there was also someone else who was in the congregation and he was like, it's crazy to me because it's like literally a double life. Like he would come in here and like
Yeah.
help people pray and like people loved him and all this stuff. Like he's someone like highly valued. It's the South. He's highly
Mm-hmm.
valued in his community. And then he goes and does this over
Yeah.
wanting to sleep with his roommate. Like,
Yeah. Who
it's
he's
just
sexually
crazy.
assaulting? Like,
Yeah, just sexually
yeah.
harassing, verbally harassing,
Mm-hmm.
slashing tires on the other girlfriend. Like,
That's the thing too, like going after like both girlfriends. Like,
hmm
and I do wonder too, like what made like Latrice different from Velma? Like what was it just like an opportunity? Like he came upon her
yeah,
and was like, okay, like I can do this here. Like would he have done the same thing to Velma or like was she targeted specifically over Velma? Like that's an interesting
yeah. A lot of people aren't sure. Like, some people think it was like he just saw an opportunity. Like, oh,
hmm
she didn't go straight home. Like, she stopped. Like, I can stop
Yeah.
and like pretend to help her, and then, you know. I also don't know if he just like snapped and was like, Latrice was at Stephen and Robert's house, so maybe he heard it and just that was his tipping point of like rage. I'm not really sure, but it's just crazy.
Yeah. That is so sad.
Yeah. And one I just like never heard of. Like she's never talked
hmm
about. And it's this one's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like that's so much of these cases that we do that it's just so shocking that there's not more information out there about these
Hmm
people, you know?
Yeah, it was so hard to find like any information on this case in general.
hmm
Like most of it was in those episodes or in those like Raleigh
Yeah.
articles that were just like recapping the trial, but they were like super short and it was just like
hmm
there's not a lot of information. And it's
Yeah.
just, and her dad was on both and just like broke my heart talking about
Mm.
it because you can tell he's just so upset. And like he was saying, he
Yeah.
was like, in my house, I just have a room and it has like all of her pictures in it. And like when I
Hmm.
want to feel close to her, I just go in that room and like look at all of her pictures. And I'm like, it's just,
Mm. That's heartbreaking.
yeah, like she had such a life ahead of her that just like
Hmm. Yeah.
got cut short because of an asshole.
Yeah. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Never an easy transition, but to try to end this episode on a better note, Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is that I guess technically not last weekend, 2 weekends ago, whatever time is fake. Um, I went to Columbus with Kevin and my sister Ashton, and we went and saw it was Foxing, Taking Back Sunday, and Coheed and Cambria, which I like all
Hmm.
three bands, so dream lineup for me. Um, so it was just super nice that we got to, it was kind of a long drive, but we kind of got to go up
Hmm.
there hang around Columbus for the day. Did I drive by a location for a future episode? Yes, I
Oh,
did.
okay. Can't wait.
Didn't really tell me much because it's something different now, but it's still fun, like interesting to see, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it was just a really fun time. It was just the three of us just getting to hang out, which is like
Yeah.
kind of rare that it's just the three of us and the kids aren't around kind of thing. So
Hmm.
it was a
Nice.
super fun time.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. The only thing I hated was standing room only makes you realize how old you are. And it was also
Yeah.
like a lawn that was like an incline. So you're also
Oh
standing on
God.
an incline. So, you know, you're kind
Oh,
of having to do your weight in
yeah.
like a weird way.
That is rough. Yeah.
My body hurt. I was like wobbling to the car. But
It's so hard. Like you truly realize how old you are after those days.
yeah, it's rough. But yeah, so that is my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is that this weekend, my friend Amelia, who I met when I lived in North Carolina, came to visit. So we've been friends for gosh, it's like 13 years now, which is
Dang.
crazy, right? And like we both lived in like multiple states since then, like just had so many different life things happening, whatever. And we've, tried to at least when we both lived in North Carolina, even after she moved away, like we would meet up, and now we try to meet up as often as we can, which is not very often when you are, all over the
Yeah.
place. But I got to see her for the first time in like 2 years. She got to meet my kids for the first time. She has a daughter now, so I got to meet her. Her fiance came and it was just a lot of fun. So it was nice
Oh,
to
that's fun.
get to catch up and like get to see the kids play together. Her fiance also told me they were listening to the podcast on the road trip here. So hello if you're listening. Thank you. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun and good to catch up and also like it's fun to see like
Hmm.
how people evolve over the years and like, especially when you meet so young and it's like you don't get to like see each other like every day and then you like see each other every other year and then it's like, oh, you get to see like how everyone's lives are turning out and just
Yeah.
really super sweet.
It's always nice to like catch back up with those people
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like have that. So yeah, that's super
Yeah.
fun.
So it was a lot of fun. Like we mentioned at the beginning, we will be at CrimeCon live time. We've already been to CrimeCon at the time
Hmm.
that you were listening to this episode. But come visit us over at patreon.com/caffeinated crimes, where we have a bunch of bonus episodes. And if you want to hear our CrimeCon recap this month, that will be coming out. We have all of our previous episodes. We have, you can chat with us on Discord. We have some old video episodes we probably need to bring back again. Just let us know
Hmm.
what you want. What would make you want to join us
Yeah.
over on that platform for some extra fun bonus content. So we'd love to make it happen. And we're on all the socials, on all the things. You can Google us and look in the show notes and, everything.
Hmm. And if you wouldn't mind to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a comment on Spotify. I'm trying to remember to go look at
Mm.
episodes,
Yeah.
and look at like comments.
I wish we got notified. You would think like our email address would get notified, right?
Yeah,
But
I
maybe
would
not.
think so. I don't really know how it works because,
Mm-hmm.
it's like all through like a different platform. So it's not like you can have like a
Mm,
manager of that.
true.
It's
Yeah.
so weird. I don't know. But I've been trying to go through and look and see if I see
Mm-hmm.
any and react and stuff. But um yeah, if you give us 5 stars on there, YouTube, a like, subscribe, all the nice and kind things. But yeah, in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.